My name is Adam Kewen. I work here at the Student Success Center. My job title is manager, so it's pretty vague and broad. The work that we do here at the Student Success Center is pretty much initiatives to support students from the time they decide to come to McMaster to up to 5 years after they graduate. So some of the work that entails is some of the transition stuff. So we're really heavily involved with Welcome Week and transition programs to helping students adjust to university life. Academic skills, we have programs for first-gen students who are the first in their families to attend post-secondary in Canada. We have leadership development programs as well as service learning and volunteer and community engagement programs. And then towards the end of your life at university, you're probably starting to think about future career plans as well as continuing education. So we've got a whole suite of programs around helping people deal with their career decisions. And so my role here is specifically around kind of the student life type stuff, so the leadership development and the volunteerism and the community engagement stuff. It's a really good question. I have been working in student affairs for probably a number of years in a few different capacities. So I used to work in residence in the last 4 years here at the Student Success Center. And I would say out of all that is the reward of health, witnessing students, their kind of developmental trajectory. So kind of seeing folks come in around first or second year and questioning maybe why they're here, what their degree is worth. And then through their experiences that we provide in the classroom and outside of the classroom, they start to discover their sense of self and their sense of purpose. So I think the most satisfying thing is when you kind of see people, you get to witness those aha moments, and then even like 4 or 5 years after, you'll get those emails or you'll see those Facebook updates where they've got a job, or you've seen they've made that connection to something that you were kind of there when they planted that seed 6 years earlier. So I think that's one of the most rewarding parts of me. I think there is lots that students get out of volunteering. I think it's an interesting culture shift around the purpose of volunteering with now that we've got the 40 hours that are required in high school. But I think a lot of people go into it around volunteering as what can they contribute, which is really meaningful because I think it speaks to a lot about people's motivations around helping and serving their community and being an active citizen. I think what a lot of people don't necessarily consider is the rewards and the benefits. So in terms of affirming or challenging their career goals. And the example I always use is people who want to be a vet. And so they start to volunteer with an animal organization and they realize that they don't like animals. It was kind of just this romantic idea of being an animal doctor, but then they realize that the kind of work that goes into it. And so it will challenge their preconceived notions of what that looks like, and so they might take a different avenue or examine other options, or it might tell them that this is where they're supposed to be and really affirm that goal for them and then help them achieve other outcomes. There's a sense of belonging, there's networking, there's skill development, there's all sorts of benefits to volunteerism. I would say the experience. I know from me, what I get out of volunteering is I feel connected to the things that I'm volunteering with. I feel like I am growing and learning, and I feel like I'm part of my community. So the people who I'm volunteering with are the people who I'm seeing at the grocery store, the people who I'm seeing at the coffee shop, and so I feel like I'm a part of my community and much more than just a resident or a passive resident as opposed to an actively engaged citizen. I would say, based on what I've been able to observe, yes. I think people who are looking to volunteer are looking for something to commit to. I don't necessarily see a lot of people who are doing something just for a couple of weeks or a couple of shifts and then veering on. I think people are at least in it for a couple of months, and I think a lot of it has to do with building up the habit and the pattern of volunteering. Yes. Yes, it absolutely does. And I think that looks different depending on who you ask. If you look at our mission, it says that we're accountable to the economic and social needs of the community in which we live. And I think that could mean through avenues like volunteerism. If you look at an asset-based model, one of the greatest assets we have is the time and the energy and the enthusiasm of our student population. And so that's one of the greatest things we have to offer. But if you look at in terms of other ways we can contribute to our university, it's around mobilizing some of the knowledge that we have so it benefits the residents of the community in which we live, looking at different models of, looking at innovation in a different way, looking at all the riches that we have within the confines of our campus or kind of our other spaces and how we can make that accessible. So I think that's where the university is kind of moving towards. So in short, yes.
Yeah.
In long, everything I just said.
I volunteered in La Cienega Dominicana for 2 weeks in May last year.
I volunteered with Care for Kids. There's a charitable foundation, and we sold chocolate-covered almonds for $4 a pop.
I volunteered mostly in the Jewish community in Hamilton.
We have this project of collecting food and send to the north part of Brazil to help the people who doesn't have what to eat.
Firstly, I volunteered at Deposit MAC, which is the People for Animal Welfare Society on campus. I've done that for 3 years now, and this year and last year I was part of the exec.
I grew up in the volunteer force because I had a tough upbringing as a child, so I felt like it was necessary to give back to the community and try to help the planet, because I mean, if nobody does, then it won't get done.
So I would say that as much as it was a part of my religious upbringing to volunteer, I think that it's also just a big part of being Canadian. It's part of our culture. What it means to be a good citizen is to involve yourself, and that people will find their own niche and what's meaningful for them, whether it's through the Jewish community or through a secular. But I think that it's really ingrained in our society.
I wanted to volunteer to make a difference. It is a third world country, so I knew that they were in need, and there are people living without homes.
It's for meeting people, getting out there, getting involved. It's really easy just to stay in school and focus on your kind of bubble, but getting out of there and starting new experiences and stuff is very important as well.
You really learn who you are as a person.
Firstly, I guess, is meeting people, especially on campus. University is really big and it's hard to meet people. So volunteering was really good for me to be able to meet people outside my program, outside of Res in first year as well. So that was very valuable. Secondly, it gave me a lot of experience for my resume and allowed me to understand what I want to do with my life. So yeah, practical experience also.
I think that apart from the fact that for everyone it definitely feels good to give your time and to get out of your own head and not be so self-centered, I think that it's really useful. It helps you network, it helps you gain normal skills in society, social skills, putting yourself out there, and I think that it's beneficial in all different ways.
I believe in something I call 360 degrees of knowledge, and it's like no matter how you start, you end up right back where you started. Like no matter how much you learn, like you can learn math and be Einstein, but even Einstein could learn a thing or two in that same field or others. So I felt that my life came full circle in that regard. So I feel like it's made me a more well-rounded individual.